Update 23.10 is live on PC and players can now engage in Elite Alerts, also known as Lethal Alerts or Arbitrations. Now I will be talking about them in a bit, but for now you can also engage in a new quest. This quest is Chimera. This is a small event much like the Apostasy Prologue, and in order to start it, you just need to go to the object in your personal quarters, and boom, you start the quest. Now as for the rest of the update, let's go into Lethal Alerts. Now for those that don't know what they are a new form of challenging content for the players, where you only have one life for the duration of the mission, and if you die, you fail, and you get placed back onto your orbiter. The lore behind it is that the Arbiters of Hexis want to try and challenge you, and it's simple as that. Now you will need to complete every single mission on the star chart in order to access this content. You can check what nodes you haven't completed by going around the star chart and looking for the blue flashing dots on each of the missions. That indicates that you haven't completed that mission and that you need to do it. Besides that, you can also apparently talk to the NPC, which is the arbitration vendor. Now once you've done that, you can start the lethal alert by going into your navigation menu, and it will be there under alerts. There'll be a few things to note with these alerts, however. First off, you can get some extra bonuses by using the weapons listed on the alert, and these alerts themselves are only endless in nature, so you will only encounter endless missions and no capture or exterminates or etc. Now when it comes to these versions of endless missions, they act separately to the normal way of doing things. First off, they have doubled the rotation and reward count. Instead of it being AABC, it is now ABCCC onwards until you complete the mission or die. For the rotations themselves in terms of time frame, they only occur every 10 waves on defense, every 10 minutes in a survival mission, every 2 excavators, and so on. It's basically doubling the norm of what you are used to with the standard survival and endless missions in terms of when you get a reward. Now, upon completing a lethal alert, you will receive Vitis Essence, which is a new form of resource, and you can use these to buy new items from the arbitration vendor, which I mentioned beforehand, and he is located in any of the relays in the Arbiters of Hexis room on the left-hand side as soon as you enter. Now, at this vendor, you can get some cosmetics for your orbiter, your operator, as well as some mods, but you will need a lot of the Vitis Essence. They've also stated that there is a new drone type of enemy that will shield the enemies from damage. When I played through it, I did not encounter this, but according to the photo and the information, it will shield the enemies, and you will have to destroy that drone before you can damage said enemies. Now, on top of the changes to the rotation system and the time limit, there are changes to the missions themselves. For survival missions, life support capsules are only worth 75% of what they're normally worth. For interception, towers controlled by enemies will fill the opponent progress bar at double the rate. For defense, you'll be protecting an NPC, and the downtime between waves is shorter. For excavation, they've increased the defense time to 3 minutes. For defection, the rescue targets have no revive state, and for infested salvage, the consoles have half their normal health. Now, within these missions, you can get the following rewards. These are 6 new mods. Sharpshooter, which is a sniper mod, which grants 15 energy upon getting a headshot kill. Cautious Shot, which is for unique weapons, and that grants a damage reduction of 90%, while also reducing your overall damage by 15%. Power Donation, an aura mod, which reduces your power strength by 30%, but also grants your whole team 30% power strength. Vigorous Whiffs, which is for your Warframe, where upon equipping a weapon you'll get 165% damage for 3 seconds, as well as a holster speed bonus of 100%. Rolling Guard, once again for your Warframe, upon dodging, which is rolling, you'll become invulnerable for 3 seconds and it will remove all status effects. There is a 7-second cooldown. And then we have Adaptation, which is a Warframe mod, and that makes it so when you're damaged, you will have a 10% resistance to that damage type for 20 seconds, and that can stack up to 90%. Besides that, there's nothing really to note about the lethal alerts, arbitrations, or elite alert, or whatever you want to call them, besides the enemies being level 60 to 100. Also in this update was the introduction of 2 new weapons, the Falcor, which is the Corpus Glaive. You can pick that up at the Energy Lab by researching it, or purchasing it in the in-game market. and the Pupicist, which you can research at the bio lab at your clan dojo, or for plat in the in-game market. There are also 2 new weapon skins, the Zastra Dual Dagger skin, and the Kludge Kill Machete skin. You can also find those in the market. Now we'll go over general additions before we get into more serious stuff, such as the daily tribute changes. So new additions to the game are the following. We have 2 new Sentinel Precepts available at Cephalon Samaris, the Death Cube Energy Generator Precept, which makes Death Cube drop an energy orb upon assisting in 10 kills, and Shade's Ambush, which makes it so when Ghost invisibility is broken, Shade's owner is granted an extra 120% damage for 3 seconds. There are also 7 new Syndicate Captura scenes, which you can purchase from the Syndicates as well. There's the Lure Containment scene, which is purchased from Arbiters of Hexis, Chamber of the Lotus, Cephalon Suda, Silver Grove by New Loka, Mycona Colony by Perrin Sequence, Hunhouse Chamber by Red Veil, Kuva Throne, Steel Meridian, and Sanctuary Conduit by Cephalon Samaris. They've also introduced the new Infinite Gear Wheel, which can hold a total of 99 gear items. Each time you add a new item past the current limit, it will gain an extra tab for the spiral, and it will go up until you fill all these slots. You can also use each of the dragon keys in your gear wheel now, so you can solo farm those mods. Also, with these changes to the gear wheel, they have made the Archwing charges infinite, and the Archwings themselves have no delay, and you can instantly switch into a Archwing. Now they have also made new sounds for direct messages, squad chat, dragon dropping, and when someone joins your squad. They've added a relics category to your inventory screen. There's an objective marker that points players towards Konzu when you enter Cetus for the first time. They've added new aiming in and out transmissions to the Archwing weapons. They've added the ability to purchase multiple former bundles from the market at once. And they've also added a new in-game challenge, aka achievement, which is fly 10,000 meters on the plains of Eidolon in a stolen dungeon. And there's also the addition of a couple more fan art in your codex that you can use for your displays in your orbiter. Now we go to the daily tribute changes. So it's pretty simple, and the changes are that you can choose between 3 different options at your next milestone earning. They've also added a greeting of each of the characters and added voices to it, but to be honest, who's going to care about that shit? From day 1000 onward, every 50 days, the player will have a random evergreen pack chosen for them, and then the player can choose from the contents within that pack. So, for Evergreen Choice A, the player can choose between 3 former, 3 Exilus adapters, or 4 weapon slots. For Evergreen Choice B, the player can choose between 50,000 Kuva, 7-day boosters for the affinity credit and resource, or 30,000 Endo. And for Evergreen Choice C, the player can choose between 3 rifle ribbons, 3 melee ribbons, or 3 secondary ribbons. It's pretty simple, and that's the gist of what the changes are. They've also added scaling to the day-to-day rewards, such as your resources and whatnot, and that will now scale off of the days you have logged in. And they've also made it so there is now a fixed day 5 reward of 25,000 credits and 1,000 Endo. And they've also made it so for those that want the cosmetics such as the Lodestar Syandana and the Lodestar Armor set, they stay at day 800 and day 1000, so you can't choose between those. Those are static. Now those aren't the only changes, and we're only really about halfway through the patch note. So the third change was to the dojo. There is a new room, the Inspiration Hall, which is a blank large room which has 6 doors. There are 40 new particle-based decorations and 7 basic decorations. There is a new Show or Hide All Blueprints Owned button in the research rooms. There is now a confirmation prompt when you are kicking or banning a player in the in-game chat. They have added the option to the treasury to donate resources, credits, or decorations to Alliance clans. Clan chat will now highlight significant events in green text. At the moment of recording, it seems to be not working. All display decorations are now enabled in the dojo, as well as the addition of a new text decoration, yet that wasn't added into the game during the major update, so that will have to be added in at a later date. So if you're wondering where that is, it's currently not in the game. And for those wondering what it is, Pablo tweeted out a video of it. It's the text option that's in Captura at the moment, but, for your ships, your orbiter, or your dojo. They've also made it so you can turn off and on operator access for your custom dojo obstacle course at the room's terminal. The clan screen will show how long an Ascension ceremony has left if you're a player that hasn't interacted with it. They've made it so ammo is now restored to the player after you complete a dojo duel. The room rotate option has seen its visibility increase, and there is now a duplicate option for dojo and orbiter decorating that duplicates the item's scale and rotation. There was also the further implementation of UI 3.0 for a number of screens, so if you've seen any change to that, that's the reason why. Revenant also saw some changes, with his Reave ability's width being affected by range mods, as well as making it so Reave removes status effects upon cast and redirects that status effect back at the affected enemies. There were also Revenant Fixes, so if you're into Revenant, they're up on your screen. The Phantasma's alternate fire also saw some changes, making it so it now shoots 5 projectiles automatically, and it's no longer affected by charge time. Instead, the damage the weapon deals is now scaled off of that charge time. Saryn saw 3 changes, first of which was increasing the Miasma damage multiplier to 4. They also halved Miasma's base damage as well in reply to that, and they also made it so the Spore's scaling damage per second now caps out at 7. They also made some changes to the sounds for melee weapons, so if you see any significant changes to that, that's why. Operator clothing was also updated to make it so mix and matching was a lot less jarring, and the operator visual loadouts that they talked about previously are now live in the game. They're only for your operator's visuals, so you have 3 slots, A, B, C, just like Warframes, and yeah, they hold your visual changes. They made some changes to the junctions as well. They removed the defeat 3 Eximus enemies on Earth task from the Venus junction. They've lowered the defeat 10 Eximus enemies on Venus challenge to 5 Eximus enemies, and they've also changed the location requirement to be that of anywhere on the star chart. The junction challenge kill 10 sentients on Lure has been reduced to 5 sentient kills, and you now need to complete and collect 1 mod from the Orokin Principle test rather than 3. Now they also made it so in Hotfix 23.10.2, heavy blades and hammersaws have a default range of 3 meters. They reverted the change to the Vanker Prime and made it so its combo multiplier is now 0.75 times, and there were also changes in that hotfix as well, but nothing significant. But back to update 23.10. We are now onto changes. It's a long-ass video, and I apologize for that if you are still watching, but this was a mainline update. First off, the lighting in the game was changed. If you go to any of the relays, you can notice it. More significantly, in the Cephalon Samaris room, there is no longer blinding light that reflects off of the player and makes everyone's character look like shit. That was one of the changes. The next was the introduction of the Beast category for Kubrau Kavat and Helminth Charger mods. Those 3 companions are now categorized as Beast. They've also added the Robotic category for Sentinels, and any of the remaining mods are listed under Companion and can be used on any of your companions. The Mask of the Revenant quest was added to the Codex. They've made Primed Quickdraw tradable. The Kleperic Scaffold will now reset sentient resistance. They've increased the Staticor's charge shot AoE size from 2 meters to 8 meters, and it's no longer affected by charge level. Energy, health, shield, and ammo restores will now have that new remastered look from that concept art we saw previously. To be honest, they don't look as good as they did in the concept art than they do in game, so it's kind of disappointing. But hey, when does concept art ever get undermined by the actual content in the game? Now, each of the energy, health, shield, and ammo restores will have their own significant color for the pulse, so keep that in mind when you're placing them down. They've made it so ammo stations in the Plains of Eidolon will now only generate ammo that of which the player has. They've adjusted the chances for Kavats to use the pet bed in your orbiter, improved the ability to parkour your way across a sloped wall, optimized away more shader memory. Players with an active radiation status effect can no longer trigger radiation on other players. They've tweaked the audio on Korra's accumulating whipclaw. They've tweaked start times on dynamic music in the Void. They've optimized the Clem Noggle to not load up that impacts performance. They've made it so it will now show unowned bundle-only skins in the arsenal when appropriate. They've tweaked the Convetrix and the Attica to have better combat sounds. They made various optimizations, the NPC pathfinding, the Simulacrum enemy level selection pop-up now defaults to currently selected enemy levels. They've changed the Archwing max height in the Plains of Eidolon to 100 meters. Previously it was 50. Corpus enemies will now have a consistent effects color. They've improved emblem visibility on Kubrals when equipped with armor. Fishing hotspots should now be identical between all players. They've improved scaling of inventory and vendor menus on the ultra-wide screens. They've updated weapon effects for the Archiplasmor Kastanas and Sancti Kastanas. The Archiplasmor's one does look fucking sweet. They've improved AI pathing logic in the Lure tile set. They've changed the Ambulous dropship emissive to have a distance fade. They made slight animation polishes to Isaiah in the Sacrifice quest. They've darkened the yellow in the Oricon theme. They made improvements to the performance when streaming into the Plains of Eidolon. They tweaked random encounter position selection to increase the enemy activity in the Plains of Eidolon. They made some aperture improvements to the Plains of Eidolon, shortened mission titles for the Archwing quest. They updated the windows in some of the Grineer Spy mission vaults to prevent NPCs from spotting players through the glass. They made shade adjustments to the Equinox UI theme. They made several TAA improvements, fixing blurring under motion and making it a sharper look. They updated the Exilus adapter inventory description to fuses with a Warframe to unlock the Exilus mod slot so that it reduces confusion. They improved the Grineer Courier's flight navigation in the Archwing Pursuit missions. Operators no longer play their idle animations when customizing them. They've updated header art and simplified the description of the Hunter set mods. Promo codes are no longer case sensitive. They've updated the melee slam and elemental effects, cleaned up melee effects when hitting an enemy, polished and fixed various Plains of Eidolon objective UI, enhanced the two-factor authentication system, improved systems for detecting driver capability issues on legacy graphics cards, Nightwatch napalms, Napalm Fireball Origin no longer blocks projectiles, so I think Darth Muffin may be happy with that. They corrected the Grand Prime's melee combo counter values to be the same as every other melee weapon, excluding the previously mentioned Venka Prime. They smoothed out some stuttering when holding Volt's electric shield, changed the coupon wording from negative 50% to 50% off. To clarify, they darkened the Captura play button in the advanced Captura controls to improve invisibility. Linked items in chat that can't be purchased with Platinum now have a build tab which explains where to build the item. They made Sentinel movement smoother by basing Sentinel rotation and position on the player's movement. They made minor improvements to the Moa Noggle animations. They lowered the brightness of the Anthus energy lighting. They improved melee swap and block hints for Vor's push beam in the Vor's prize quest. They updated arcane rank icons so they'll be easier to read on light backgrounds. Changed how Noggles scale to improve the quality of detail, improved the Loki Kadama skin's brightness and clarity, changed the color of the health restore gear wheel item to green, slightly tweaked the direction of ejected weapon clips during the reload animation. Valky's Warcry buff indicator will now display the buff value in addition to the duration. They improved the way the players perceive gunfire and explosion sounds at long distances in the Plains of Eidolon, increased the odds of bounty objectives spawning in caves in the Plains of Eidolon. They reorganized aura mods to display in order of lowest to highest given mod capacity. They increased the capture end timer during Void Fisher missions from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. They made numerous optimizations and micro-optimizations. They repositioned the camera placement for Zor and Amp screens, tweaked the Katia Cornu diadem tint diffuse to allow 2-color customization, and they updated the Discord integration. They suggest that you update your Discord whenever it needs to be updated. As for the incubator changes, which I should have put at the start of all these changes, but if you're still listening, they shortened the default status recovery time from 3 hours to 30 minutes. They changed the status rush cost from 10 platinum to 10,000 credits. Tenno, who own the Nutrio incubator segment, will now have instant recovery from stasis at no cost. They reduced the platinum cost of companion name changing from 25 platinum to 15, and they removed the pickup limit on Kubrow eggs. They also made it so aiming when using a beam weapon should hit the enemy if you're looking at it instead of it going some ways past them. They also made changes to the Forest Sabotage mission. They've added a progress wheel to the UI to show the antitoxin strength. The antitoxin console will now disable when strength is at 100% to avoid players wasting antitoxins, and they slightly increased the strength score of common and uncommon antitoxins. As for fixes and changes to controllers, they're up on your screen. You can read them here if you do use a controller. And for the fucking, what's this, 4 pages of fixes in this bloody update, you can look at the screen, or I highly suggest with this update, you read them on the forum post, because this is a long-ass video, it's a long-ass update. Hopefully you enjoy it. See you guys in the next video.